Today we can discuss about agarose gel electrophoresis. What is this agarose? Agarose is a polysaccharide generally extracted from a red seaweed. It's a polymer of it's made up of agarobiosis. What is agarobiosis? Agarobiosis is a disaccharide made up of galactose as well as 3,6-anhydro-L-galactopyranose. So you usually had a question that what is the difference between agar and agarose? Agarose is one of the two principal components of agar and is purified from agar by removing agar's and other component agaropectin. So the agarobiosis and agaropectin are the important components of agar, of which agaropectin we will remove and we will take only the agarobiosis unit forming the agarose. And agarose is a purified form, a more purified form compared to agar. We can see the structure of agarose, and this is the agarobiosis, and we have removed the agaropectin unit from the agarobiosis to produce the agarose from agar. Then we can ask a question that why agarose used instead of agar? Agar is more cheaper compared to agarose. Why we can't use agar instead of agarose? Why we use agarose instead of agar? While agar consists of a variety of polysaccharide including agarose, a sulfated galactan, agarose is purified from agar, has lower sulfate content and more neutral in charge. Compared to agar, the agarose are more neutral in charge and having lower sulfate content. Higher impurities in the agar gel may retard the migration and separation of substances such as DNA and proteins and can affect the biological activities of these substances if they are purified from the gels. We used to purify the bands from the gel during gel elution. While when we are purifying the components from the gel, it can affect the activity of the components if we use agar in the case of agarose, because agar contains large amount of impurities. Therefore, agarose gel with lesser impurities are preferred over agar gel. That is why we use agar gel instead of agarose. You can check in your lab by using both and try to find out the difference. You can prepare a gel with agar and prepare a gel with agarose and just run it and see the differences. And properties of agarose. First we need to know the properties of agarose. It is non-toxic, can be handled freely. The sulfate content may be used as an indicator of purity. Since sulfate is the major ionic group present, lower sulfate content is preferable for DNA electrophoresis. So depending on the sulfur content, we can assess the purity of the agarose. We will get different quality agarose for different prices, different grade of agarose we can get. So by assessing the amount of sulfate content in them, we can assess their purity. Gel strength is the force that must be applied to a gel to cause its fracture. Gel strength is dependent on the concentration of the gel. Therefore, gel strength is always reported with specific percent agarose. Agarose is unique that it can produce strong gels with lower concentration of agarose. Even lower concentration of agarose, we can make strong gel with agarose, so that handling may be easy. Even if it is so strong, it is not much brittle. When we are using it, I think the people who use agarose gel has the experience that the gel may break down. But agarose has some amount of gel strength which will help in handling the gel very easily without the breakage. Another thing is gel point. The temperature at which the aqueous agarose solution forms gel as it cools. Agarose solution exhibit hysteresis in liquid to gel transition, that is, gel point of the solution is not same as the melting temperature. In general, the gelling temperature range, also known as the transition temperature, is 32 to 45 degrees of gelling temperature, and the melting temperature range from 80 to 95 degrees centigrade. So this type of hysteresis is exhibited by the agarose gel. The agarose gel electrophoresis for the separation of DNA fragments. Generally we use for separation of DNA fragment the agarose gel electrophoresis. Agarose gel electrophoresis is a method used to separate DNA and RNA molecule according to their molecular size. This is achieved when negatively charged nucleic acid migrate through an agarose gel matrix under the influence of electric current, that is electrophoresis, we already know. So during electrophoresis, we will load the DNA in agarose gel, and based on their molecular size, the DNA will migrate, DNA or RNA will migrate through the agarose gel. Shorter molecule with low molecular weight move faster and migrate farther than the larger one. Larger ones will be seen near to the wells which we load the DNA or RNA, while the shorter molecule we can see farther from the wells which we load the DNA or RNA. This method is simple, rapid to perform, and capable of resolving fragments of DNA that cannot be separated by other procedures such as density gradient centrifugation. It's more easier than density gradient centrifugation. It's easy to separate this DNA fragment better than density gradient centrifugation. The position of DNA in the agarose gel is visualized under UV light by staining with a low concentration of fluorescent intercalating dyes such as ethidium bromide. We usually use ethidium bromide for staining. We usually we can run the DNA and stain it with ethidium bromide, or we will add some ethidium bromide to the gel when we make the gel, so that the intercalating agent, the ethidium bromide, will intercalate, will attach in between the DNA strands, so that if the DNA is present, the particular region will fluorescent, and that fluorescent region is usually called the bands. We usually refer to as bands where the DNA is present. Agarose is an unmodified polysaccharide of galactose with neutral charge, essential to prevent the interaction with the charged DNA and the protein molecule. We already said, as we are purifying the agar into agarose, a lot of the charged molecules we will we can remove a lot of the charged molecule, but in the case of sulfite, everything. So the agarose has a neutral charge, so that to prevent the interaction of DNA or protein molecule with components of the gel. As it gets gelled, it forms large pores, which is useful for separation of DNA and proteins based on its molecular size. In aqueous solution below 35 degrees, these polymer strands held together in a porous structure by non-covalent interaction such as hydrogen bond and electrostatic interaction maintains the gel in the gel form. On heating the solution, the non-covalent interaction broken down and strands are separated, and the solution cooled. The non-covalent interaction are re-established and the gel is formed. That is how the gelling occurs. The purified agarose is insoluble in water or buffer at room temperature, but dissolves on boiling. The people who have done this agarose electrophoresis may know this. When we take and take the agarose and add the buffer, it will not be soluble in the buffer. But when we heat it, as we heat it, the agarose will get dissolved and the solution or the buffer will become colorless. As it cools, the agarose undergoes polymerization. So, after boiling, as it cools, agarose undergoes polymerization. The sugar polymers crossing each other and cause the solution to solidify, and density or pore size is determined by the concentration of agarose. So, as we take more concentration of agarose, the pore size become more less, and less concentration of agarose, the pore size become high. So, based on the concentration of agarose, the pore size or density will be determined. So, we can see the solution state approximately 45 degree, the 45 degree, the initial gel, the cross-linking we can see here, and on aging we can see the gel which the sugar molecules cross-link each other to form the gel-like porous structure. You can see in this figure. All these processes are reversible. We can see if we heat the gel in around approximately 100 degree, we can see it will go back to the solution state. So, this is the hysteresis which is shown by the agarose gel. If we heat up to 45 degree, the agarose will get gelled, but if we need to heat up to 100 degrees centigrade to return it back to the solution. So, this is the hysteresis which we have seen in the earlier slide. So, this is the agarose, and as we dissolve the agarose in the buffer, and then we will add the ethylene bromide. Very low amount of ethylene bromide we used to add, and then we will pour it on a mold, or mold, you can say it as a mold, and in that mold it will get solidify, and during the solidification we will make some wells also in this gel, so that in that wells we will load the DNA, and then we will take that gel to an electrophoresis chamber in which the electric current is applied, so that the DNA molecule, as it has a negative charge, it moves towards the positive electrode, thereby based on the size it will get separated. This is all discussing here. During gelation, the agarose polymer associate non-covalently and form network of bundles whose pore size determine the gel's molecular sieving properties. As we have seen, depending on the concentration of agarose, it will determine the pore size and determine the gel's molecular sieving properties. The use of agarose electrophoresis revolutionized the separation of DNA. As we know, every molecular biology labs use for tens to hundreds of the agarose they do tens to hundreds of agarose electrophoresis daily. So, prior to that adoption of agarose gels, the DNA was primarily separated using sucrose density gradient centrifugation, which only provided an approximation of size. We have already discussed so far. We are been using the sucrose density gradient centrifugation earlier, but and only it can give only an approximation of the size of the DNA. But in the case of agarose electrophoresis, we can get a very precise size of the DNA. To separate the DNA using agarose electrophoresis, the DNA is loaded into pre-cast wells in the gel, and the current is applied. We have already seen that the phosphate backbone of DNA is negatively charged. Therefore, when placed in electric field, the DNA migrate to the positively charged electrode. As we have discussed in the earlier slide. Because the DNA has uniform mass to charge ratio, the DNA molecule separated by size within the agarose gel in a pattern such that the distance traveled is inversely proportional log of its molecular weight. Based on the molecular weight, the DNA gets separated. So, agarose electrophoresis has proven to be an efficient and effective way of separating nucleic acids. Agarose high gel strength allows for handling low percentage gels for the separation of large DNA fragment. And so it has high gel strength. Even if we take the low percentage or low concentration agarose gels also, it will not break down when we are during the experiment. So we can use it, low concentration gel for separation of larger DNA fragments also. Molecular sieving is determined by the size of the pores generated by the bundles of agarose in the gel matrix. In general, the higher the concentration of agarose, the smaller there will be the pore sizes. Traditional agarose gels are most effective for the separation of DNA fragment between 100 base pair to 25 kilo base pair. You need to keep in mind here 100 base pair to 25 kilo base pair fragments can be separated by the traditional agarose gel. To separate the DNA fragments larger than 25 kilo base pair, we need to use pulse field gel electrophoresis, which involve the application of alternating current from two different directions. We will discuss in the pulse field gel electrophoresis more in detail in the next video. Anyway, the pulse field gel electrophoresis is used to separate the DNA fragment more than 25 kilo base pair. In this pulse field gel electrophoresis, the application of alternating current from two different directions is used to separate larger DNA fragment. In this way, larger size DNA fragments separated by the speed at which they reorient themselves with the changes in current direction. DNA fragments smaller than 100 base pair more effectively separated using polyacrylate gel electrophoresis. So, smaller DNA fragments can be separated using polyacrylate gel electrophoresis. In modern DNA sequencing, capillary electrophoresis is used whereby capillary tubes are filled with the gel matrix. So, the DNA sequencing we use capillary electrophoresis. Use of capillary tubes allows the application of high voltage, thereby enabling the separation of DNA fragment and the determination of DNA sequence quickly. So, a lot of other techniques are also being used in the separation of DNA. Ethylene bromide, we have already seen ethylene bromide. Ethylene bromide is the most common reagent used for staining the DNA. When exposed to UV light, the electrons in the aromatic ring of the ethylene bromide get activated, which leads to the release of energy light as the electron return back to the ground state. This is what occurring in the ethylene bromide. When the ethylene bromide is exposed to UV light, the electrons in the aromatic ring of ethylene molecule get activated and it lead to the release of light as the electron return back to its ground state. Ethylene bromide works by intercalating itself in the DNA molecule in a concentration dependent manner, which allow for an estimation of the amount of DNA at a particular DNA band based on its intensity. So, in a concentration dependent manner only the ethylene bromide binds. So, some sort of quantification can be also possible by using ethylene bromide staining. Because of its positive charge, the use of ethylene bromide reduces the DNA migration rate of 15%. Because of this, ethylene bromide has a positive charge. About 15% of the DNA migration can be retarded by this ethylene bromide. It can be. One of the drawback we can say. Other drawback is which you people commonly know, that is it's a mutagen, it's a carcinogen also. Therefore, one must exercise care when handling the agarose gel containing it. So, you should take very much care when using ethylene bromide. Lot of alternative stains are also now available to replace ethylene bromide. In addition, ethylene bromide is considered as a hazardous waste, must be disposed appropriately. That is the main problem. Most of the labs are caring about this while disposing the ethylene bromide containing gels. Ethylene bromide is very hazardous waste. We usually in our lab everything, we usually separately keep the ethylene bromide gels so that it is disposed separately. So, ethylene bromide is considered as a very hazardous waste which can't be disposed to the normal waste bins. Alternate stains for DNA in the agarose gel include cyber green, crystal violet, methyl blue, all are used. Methyl blue and crystal violet, when we are using, it requires exposure of the gel, do not require exposure of the gel to the UV light for the visualization of DNA bands, thereby reducing the probability of mutation if the recovery of DNA fragment from the gel is desired. However, their sensitivity is lower than ethylene bromide. If we have very less concentration of DNA, Methyl blue or crystal violet staining we can't detect, but if we have very high concentration of DNA, it may be used as a it can be used to detect the DNA, but it is not widely used. And cyber green, it is sensitive as well as highly sensitive, UV dependent dyes with a low toxicity than ethylene bromide, but it's very expensive. So cyber green also is not practically feasible. Lot of other dyes are also available now. I'm not going through every dyes. Lot of other ethylene bromide replaces are there, but it is not much cheaper like ethylene bromide. Moreover, all of the alternative dyes either cannot be or do not work well when added directly to the gel. Therefore, gel will have to be post chained after electrophoresis because of the cost, ease of use, sensitivity. ETBR, ethylene bromide, still remains a dye of choice for many researchers. Ethylene bromide is the most widely used still now today also. So there is no other dye which can replace this until now. However, certain situations such as when hazardous waste disposal is difficult, when young students are performing the experiment, less toxic dye is usually preferred. Coming to the last slide of this presentation, loading dyes. We usually use loading dyes with the sample which we are loading, because we need to see DNA is colorless. If you load the DNA in the well, we can't see whether the DNA is migrated or not. For that, we will add some colored compounds such as loading dyes. Used in the gel electrophoresis serves three major purposes. First, they add density to the sample. As we are loading to the well, the DNA should go down to the well, then only it can properly separate it. Otherwise, it can escape to the buffer. In order to prevent that, we will add glycerol in this loading dye, which can increase the density of the sample, and it can make the sample retain in the well, allowing it to sink into the gel. Second is a dye providing a color. Simplify the loading process. We can see whether the sample is loaded or not. We can see whether the sample is migrating or not. Dyes move at the standard rates through the gel, allowing the estimation on distance of DNA fragment migrated also. So all these features are the important things of loading dye. This is some of the important things when we need to consider when we need to study the agarose electrophoresis. Hope you are interested with this video. If you find this video useful, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.